Bougie Heel Divas, Divine Divas, let's talk about raising your vibration and how it affects the entire freaking world. Let's see. When you raise your vibration, you don't just shift your life, you shift the life of everyone around you. And here in this audio, I am going to show you how that happens because we are right now witnessing one of the biggest vibrational leaps in human history. This is so important, and it is so important for you to recognize it that I am going into all the details. We're going to get so like granular here. We're going to go and get all nerdy, but you're going to love it. And so in this audio, I'm going to break down where the world is sitting vibrationally right now. We're going to talk about raising your frequency and what happens when you get to 400 energy level, 500 vibration level, 540 vibration level, and beyond. We are going to talk about the science behind the shift. What David R. Hawkins talked about in his book, The Map of Consciousness Explained, and what the potential exists, what potential exists. And then we are going to talk about my vision, why I do what I do. Okay? And so all of this is more deeply explained in God Frequency Decoded. But let's just like grab your tea, your wine, your kombucha, whatever your drink of choice is. That's going to be the vibe of the day because this one is going to be super powerful. So let's start with the vibration of humanity right now. What is the energetic signature of the collective? What's important is to know that for a long time, even when David R. Hawkins wrote his book, humankind was below the 200 level. They were in kind of a survival mode. This is where fear runs the show, where you're ruled by guilt or shame or anger or hopelessness. And a fearful population that's vibrating at 100, 150, they cling to any external authority that thinks is going to keep them safe. And this is how the world has been structured for centuries. Governments, media, religious institutions, the entire system was built on fear and control. And it was to keep people small, keep you out of your divinity, have you outsourcing your power instead of insourcing it, and keep you distracted, believing that your power lies outside of you. Because as long as collective consciousness is blowing, like vibrating at a low frequency, those who benefit from this control keep you playing their game. But here's the plot twist. In 2012, that was like the end of the Mayan calendar. Do you guys remember that? Some of you may not have been born then, but I was a grown woman then. It was the age of the Aquarius began, and there was an energetic shift that started really opening the collective mind. People started waking up to the fact that reality that they had just accepted as fact was flawed. It was actually an illusion. And then the big pandemic shift happened. 2020. This was a moment in history when the entire world was forced to pause. And they looked around and said, wait a damn minute, what is actually going on here? People started doing inner work. You saw all of like personal development took off. People were like just so into personal development. It was so important. And so then what happened? Recently, there is a huge election in the United States of America. And post-election, there were so many, mostly women, that woke up at 4 in the morning, millions of them. Like, what happened? That didn't feel real, but I know we're going to be okay. There was a calm in their bodies that didn't make sense. Their intuitions was firing, and they started to question everything. Systems, control mechanisms, and the way that they had been taught to live and think and breathe. So because of that, the collective has risen in frequency. With the earth rising in frequency, the collective is rising in frequency as well. And so we're no longer vibrating at the 100 to 150 vibration level. We're not in a deep state of fear. I know. It doesn't feel like it. There was craziness going on at the time of this recording, but I am telling you what you are seeing on, if you're watching television, just turn it off, especially if it's the news. It is state run. That's not the truth. That's not where most people are. We have risen. And right now, when I was looking at it, I believe that consciousness is really sitting around about a 300. 300 is like a willingness to look at things differently. So at this level, people are stepping beyond courage into a willingness and close to acceptance. They're breaking free from the belief that they must be controlled or governed or saved by an external force, interdimensional beings, government. They're rising into their sovereignty, which is their birthright. At this frequency, people are seeing through the matrix. They're waking up to their own divinity, and they're reclaiming the power to create. Now, let's be real. This shift is not comfortable. In fact, it is very uncomfortable, and it might feel super chaotic right now. And that is because we are all standing at a choice point. The old world, based in fear and control and scarcity, is fighting for its life. Meanwhile, the new earth, based in sovereignty, trust, and abundance, is rising. And the higher we vibrate, the faster this shift happens. So what does that mean for you? It means that your energy, your frequency, is more important than ever. More important than any strategy, more important than anything. A vision, all of that. No vision board, all of that. Your frequency is something that you get to manage. Because your frequency doesn't just affect you, it affects the entire planet. And my love, this is where we are headed. Like, what happens to you when you raise your frequency? Not just when you think about it, not when you hope about it, but when you actually start to vibrate at a higher level and hold a frequency as your normal state of being. Because this is where everything changes. You are not just some individual floating through life randomly affected by circumstances. You are a frequency holder. You are either anchoring in the higher states that will shift reality, or you are getting pulled back into old patterns of fear, scarcity, and control. So, if we were to talk about these states in a similar way that David R. Hawkins talks about it. By the way, I wrote my book, The Aligned Receiver. I wrote that book in, it's either 2018, I think, or 2019, before I'd even seen this book from David R. Hawkins, before I even knew anything about it. And it is so aligned with what he's speaking about. And he came from a scientific point of view, and I was just speaking from divinity. So just so you know. All right, so if we're talking about the 400 level, the 400 energy level, this is where reasoning and higher understanding is. So if we were to move the earth, right, move yourself from like a 300 level to a 400 level, This is where everything starts to click. You begin to see the world for what it truly is. You see manipulation, you see the programming, you see it in ways that, like, you see all the ways that you've been conditioned to stay small. And instead of spiraling, you detach. You realize that the circumstances do not define you, and you start to no longer be controlled by what, quote unquote, they say, what the news says, what the world wants you to believe. You become observer of the matrix instead of a victim to it. Now let's talk about 500 energy level. This is love and expansion. This is where your presence alone becomes healing. Because when you are vibrating at 500 or higher, you do not have to do anything to help people. Now, of course, we're going to do many things. We came here humans. We came into this world to do things. But your frequency alone starts to raise the vibration of the rooms that you walk into. You start manifesting with ease because abundance becomes your natural state. No more chasing, no more forcing. You simply exist in the field of receiving. And next, you've got 540 energy state. This is the joy and flow state. At this level, miracles happen. Like, you shift into a timeline where things just work for you. Your money flows, your opportunities appear out of nowhere. The universe bends over backwards to deliver you what you desire. Not because you're hustling for it, but because you are aligned with the frequency of ease. You wake up every day more and more excited. You move through life with grace and you stop overthinking. You trust yourself fully. Now let's talk about 600. 600 energy level, like vibration level 600, is peace and divine power. Now this is just really stepping beyond like manifesting. At the 600 level, you become a conduit for divine energy. You are not just creating life, you are creation in itself. And you've always been this. You radiate certainty, you radiate peace, and you're no longer affected by external chaos because you know that you are the source of your own stability. And at this level, people just know when they're in your presence. Like, they feel good. They don't have to understand why, they just feel it. They feel safe, they feel elevated, they feel like they just stepped into a different dimension. Now, what about 700? What about 700 vibration level? This is enlightenment, God frequency. I have a whole thing on God frequency. Now, at this level, with one single person at this level, you counterbalance millions and millions and millions of people who are vibrating at a lower frequency. At this level, you trust. You know you are God. You know what you speak manifest. Instant manifestation is just the way things happen to you. You think of something, it unfolds. Let me tell you, one person at this level will offset 70 million people stuck in fear, guilt, and anger. Do you understand the power of this? When you raise your frequency, you are literally shifting the world. Your existence alone recalibrates the collective. And this is why your inner work, in sourcing, right? Finding the source within you, your inner divinity, isn't self-care, it's your global mission. Because every time you choose to clear a trigger or integrate a shadow, every time you do it, everything shifts. And now let me talk a little bit about the ripple effect. I talk about it from the 700 level. I'm going to repeat it again. So, David R. Hawkins, in his book, The Map of Consciousness, proved that one high vibrating frequency can counterbalance millions of people vibrating in lower anger. So, for example, if it's one person at 500 level, which is the frequency of love, counterbalances 750 people below 200. One person at 600 vibration level, which is peace, counterbalances 10 million people below 200. And one person at 700 counterbalances 70 million people below 200. Now, let me take this further. This is how, like, for example, Gandhi was able to defeat the British Empire because his frequency level was in that 700 space, I believe. I have to look at the book to get to the exact. And so the fear and the disruption and the guilt and all those things that British Empire wanted to use to subjugate the people of India did not work. And so if we think about my mission, the Divinity House, my vision is to have 144 women rise to the 600 and above vibration level. And so if one person at 600 counterbalances 10 million people, that means that 144 women vibrating at 600 vibration level will counterbalance 1.44 billion people. That's 1/6 of the planet's population. That's the power of women holding peace as their baseline frequency. And it really is true about who you surround yourself with is who you are. This isn't a program, it really is a huge mission. Because when you're vibrating at peace, guess what happens? Your business takes off. You sell without selling. People just need to be in your frequency. I hear time and time again, people are like, I just need to be in this because I need to be around you. I need to be in this frequency. This is why did you buy? Why did you do this? Because of you, because of your frequency. It was just off the chain. I felt it. This is what will happen for you. So let me tell you about my vision for La Lumière, the light, the divine diva circle. My vision is to help 144,000 women to rise to 540 vibration level. Joy, 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 joy. So having 540 level, right? 144,000 women at that level will counterbalance just one person, 750,000. 144,000 women will counterbalance 108 billion people. That's more than 10 times. More than 10 times the entire population of Earth. Do you see how, like, us creating our spaces with a mission in mind to help raise the frequency and help shift and help clear triggers and help heal the planet will affect the entire world and help us to raise the frequency of the planet. La Lumière is a global movement. It's the space where you learn how to walk in the highest frequency, where joy becomes your default state, where it doesn't matter what's happening outside of you. It's the way where you're tipping the score of humanity into higher vibration. Let me tell you why this works. Have you heard of the 100 monkey effect? I tell this story over and over again, and I always say it wrong. So this time I went and researched it so I could get all of the details. I tell like the little itty details. The overall story is always right, but the itty bitty details was wrong. So I went and searched it and I found all of the details, and I'm going to tell it to you now. So there was a scientific discovery that changed everything. In the 1950s, researchers studied a group of Japanese monkeys on an isolated island. They were given sweet potatoes, but the monkeys didn't like eating them with dirt on them. So one day, a young female, of course, monkey, washed her potato in the water before eating it. She taught this to her mother, and soon other monkeys on the island started doing the same. Nothing crazy, right? Just behavior, teaching each other. But something wild happened. Once a certain number of monkeys, roughly about the 100th monkey, learned to wash their potato, suddenly monkeys all over the world started doing the same thing. They weren't doing that before. It was as if the knowledge transferred through the collective field, because it did. This is how frequency works. Once enough of us get to the highest vibration, the higher vibration, then instantly everyone can choose it, access it, shift. And so it's the quantum tipping point. 144 women anchoring peace is a frequency that spreads like wildfire. 144,000 women holding joy, the entire world suddenly is living in joy as their default frequency. You're not convincing people, you're not arguing, you're simply allowing them to rise because you have done it yourself. Your inner work is the most powerful activism on the planet. I'm going to say that again. Your inner work is the most powerful activism on the planet. When you raise your frequency, you literally are shifting millions of people just by existing at the higher frequency. This is why your inner work matters. This is why it's all about insourcing, not outsourcing. This is why your energy is not just yours. It is a force that ripples out into the collective. This is why healing yourself heals the world. When you elevate, the people around you shift. When enough of them shift, the whole world shifts. Frequency management is your activism. Alignment is your revolution. Expansion is what changes the world. You are never powerless. You were never powerless. You are literally one of the most powerful beings on the planet, and especially when you know this. So, I want you to understand when you say yes to joining the Divinity House, the space for leaders, for women who know that they're here to hold peace, certainty, and divine power as their baseline, you are saying yes to counterbalancing 1.4 billion people at a low frequency. When you hold peace as your default frequency, we create a quantum field stability that affects the entire planet. When you say yes to la lumière, you shift on a global scale. The entire population becomes shifted just because you chose to manage your own vibration and heal the stuff that's coming up so that you heal it for your generation, 7 generations back, past lifetimes, and all the things. You are helping the earth rise in frequency. You know that you are meant to be one of the 144,000 for La Lumière, the 144 for Divinity House. Now, click the link in the show notes, DM me i.m.thealignedsoul on Instagram, and we'll get you in. The world is rising in frequency, and I know this is going to be one of your most favorite episodes. Take a picture of you watching this. Tell me what your favorite part of this episode was and tag me, and I definitely will share you. I appreciate hearing from you and everyone that's listening. Remember this: you are the change. You are the shift. You are a frequency holder on this planet, and you are helping it to rise. Hugs, kisses, and all of the feels. Stay bougie, be healed, and keep it divine, Diva.